Hello there, and welcome to another episode of West Africa Democracy Radio's gender program 50/50, live around the world on WADR.org. We're also live in Liberia, Lofa County specifically, and we're live on 94.9 FM in Dakar, Senegal. My name is Atiewin Imbila Lawson. I am your host for the program, and once again, you're welcome. Now, in the month of October for 50/50, we have been discussing single parenthood. We've heard so far from single mothers and single fathers on their experiences raising children alone. We've also heard from adults who were raised by single parents on their experiences. We've spoken to psychologists, we've spoken to child activists, and today is what we call Woman of the Month, where every last episode of the month we celebrate a woman who is breaking barriers and doing an amazing job surviving and thriving in the world we have today. And of course, because we are discussing single parenthood, it would only be proper to have a single mother as our Woman of the Month.
Because I loved children so much, I didn't think about the option of not having a child when I had the opportunity to. Even though in the beginning it was quite scary for me because I had heard stories and I knew, of course, that having a child at that age equally meant that your life really comes to an end. You're going to have to live for another human being, But I said to myself that no, I don't buy into that. I don't believe in that. I will have my child and my life will not come to an end. We both will have our lives and we're going to be just fine.
Natalia Anadoh is a journalist, a communications professional. She has an advertising firm, she does community work, and she's a single mother of 3 beautiful girls.
I had a pretty good childhood, I'll say. The beginning of it it took a minute for me to understand the dynamics of family, really, because when I was born, up until I was about 8 years old, I had never met my dad because he had traveled. But back in the day, it wasn't like today where you can easily connect with somebody abroad, via social media or just pick up your phone and call them. Like, we couldn't do that. And even then, I was just 8 years. When I got to know, the whole, you're supposed to have a father type of thing. It was just my older sister and I and my mom. But then we lived in my grandmother's house. So then there was my auntie and my grandmother, my grandfather, and my uncle. So yes, it was a big family. My cousins, and we had a lot of fun, really. Growing up, at least up until my dad came, I enjoyed a big family with all the playing and the fighting and everything that big families come with. Yes. And then my dad came back right before I turned 9. And I absolutely fell in love with him. The first day I saw him and I was told, oh, this is your father, because he was everything I expected. My little mind at the time expected a man to be.
Wow.
He was big and strong and good looking and would hold me all the time. I think, those are the memories that jump up to me immediately when I think about my childhood. Yes.
Sounds exciting. Let's fast forward a bit. So that was when you were a child, and then you have 3 daughters of your own now.
I do.
Tell us about that.
They are amazing. They are my whole life put together, divided into 3, actually. I have an almost 18-year-old, and then I have an 8-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. And they grow so fast, trust me. When I think about the fact that my daughter's almost an adult, I cannot believe it. But that's what it is. Yeah, so let me see. I had my oldest when I was actually 20 when I had her. And, at the time I was doing tertiary education. And so it was pretty tough because I had to make some sacrifices. I had to put certain things on hold. And okay, but let me say this though. I've always loved children. In fact, I was expecting the plans I had for myself when I was pretty small. I was expecting to have about maybe 6 children by now.
Okay, so 3 more to go.
No, I'm done. I mean, I thought it would have been so much easier for me to have many children, but of course, reality has caught up with me, and I'm realizing that it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. So yes, 3 is my number.
Okay.
So yes, because I loved children so much, I didn't think about the option of not having a child when I had the opportunity to. Even though in the beginning it was quite scary for me because I had heard stories, and I knew, of course, that having a child at that age equally meant that your life really comes to an end. You're going to have to live for another human being, but I said to myself that no, I don't buy into that. I don't believe in that. I will have my child and my life will not come to an end. We both will have our lives and we're going to be just fine. It wasn't the easiest thing because then when I had to tell my parents about, the pregnancy, about her, it was very difficult because imagine typical Ghanaian parents, trying to make sure that you have a good life, a good future, putting you in school, and you come back home with a pregnancy, that they are not expecting. I mean, up until then, I had just really started dating, and in my mind, that was love. In my mind, that's how you love someone. When you meet a guy and they are that person, and you spend so much time together, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm in love. But when I met my daughter for the first time, that's when I actually knew what love was, because it was so different. And I had my second, I was 30 actually, and I had been looking forward to another child for so long. So when she eventually came along, yes, that was also very exciting for me. I mean, it wasn't under the best circumstances, but typical me, I won't say no to a child. So, I said absolutely. She's actually the life of the party in our family. And then my last one came 3 years ago. So I got married 4 years ago, and she came along a year later. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Well, congratulations on making it midway. Instead of 6, you had 3. That's more than enough.
I know.
How has the experience of single motherhood been for you?
It's tough. I would say one of the biggest challenges is being a single mother in our part of the world, because people judge you a lot, and people do actually write you off and think that you're not a good example, so to speak. You're the person that people advise their children not to be like. So I mean, it's hard enough that you're trying to figure life out, having a child or two all by yourself, and even trying to meet a new person. One of the things I learned or I understood from very early on as a single mother is that our culture, we're very embedded in our culture, so much so that people don't accept that. For instance, let me give you this example. Some time ago, this was before I had my second daughter. I met this nice guy, and I liked him very much, and he equally liked me, and so we spent a lot of time together. So we actually had plans to get married, settle down, everything. I met his dad, who really liked me. And anytime I got to spend time with him, I really had fun. So I had to meet his mom. And the day I met her, I have to say that I haven't had so much scrutiny in my life, because she asked me so many questions about why I'm a single mother. And her conclusion was that I must not be a good person, because because if I was such a good woman, how is it that whoever it is I had this child with didn't stay with me or whatever? She didn't mince words. She blatantly told me that there's no way she was going to allow her son to marry me or even continue to see me. And
how did that make you feel?
Broke my heart. Oh yes, absolutely broke my heart. So I think from very early on, after my daughter was born, my first daughter was born, I knew that it was not going to be an easy road for me in this part of our world, and people really are harsh in their judgments. But the upside of it is that it taught me how to be responsible. Because very early on, at 20, when my mates were living life and would always be going to the parties and doing all of that, I had to be taking care. I couldn't afford to do all of that. I had to be taking care of my daughter. And I'm so grateful for that experience. So now I have the luxury of enjoying life however I want. Because back when I was doing all the mothering, my peers were having all the fun. Mm-hmm. So now the opposite is true for me.
That's true, yeah. Okay. So you're poking some bears here, Natalia. So when you hear comments from society, how do you bounce back? What do you tell yourself?
When I got pregnant with my daughter, one of the people who really encouraged me outside of my mom was my grandmother. And my grandmother actually said to me that, honestly, the best times to have your children is when you're at this age, because you want to be over and done with it and put your life together again as you raise them. So I didn't have to worry about anybody or anything. I just had to do me. And I think that's something that stayed with me, when she said that. And knowing that I had that support from her, knowing that it wasn't that big a deal from my grandmother, I think that made me quite comfortable. So I didn't really care. I said to myself that the people who are important in my life, my parents, my siblings, my grandparents, are okay with this, then I don't care about anybody else. I was always looking at ways to make money to be able to take care of my daughter. The guy I had my daughter with was just a year older than me, so he was equally young, and so we had to always put our heads together to try and figure out how we were going to make this happen. So he was always he, however, didn't have to be out of school to make that happen. He still stayed in school, and he had a lot of financial support from his parents, so that made it so it was much easier on his part. Yeah.
Okay. Now you talk about the father of your daughter. Did you co-parent, or how do you go about the structure process?
From early on, when my daughter was born, you won't believe this. So I from the very first day I saw her, I was smitten. I was so in love with her. She, however, was in love with her father and not me.
Okay.
when I was the one who did all the hard work. But anyway, so she's always been a daddy's girl. And so from early on, of course, she had to stay with me. But her dad, because he was in school, he would come and visit over the weekends and come and help us to do all the stuff we had to do and also try to bond with her. He traveled. So that's actually where she is right now.
Okay.
The both of them are together in a different country. So I had like the early stages of her, and he's continuing from where I left off. But we have an amazing relationship. I mean, of course, we had a lot of fights in between. I always figured it out.
And what about the other two? Is it the same system you're using?
So the other two, I didn't have to worry too much about them because they had their father in their lives, from the get-go. So it made it easier on me, to not have to worry too much about what to do or how to plan stuff. Of course, because also I was mature now. I was not just out of teenagehood and afraid and wondering what to do or what not to do. Plus, I had enough experience with my first, so I really wasn't worried at all.
Ambition, strength, perseverance, inspiration. Woman of the Month is live on 50/50 now.
Thank you for staying with us. So that was the first part of my interview with Natalia Anadoh, who is a journalist. She's no longer on radio, but she does work in advertising, has her own firm, and does some community work. In the second and final part of this interview, we'll find out what her future aspirations are, what she would describe as the major challenges with single motherhood, and we'll also get some advice from her for other single mothers. What inspires you, Natalia?
Life itself really inspires me. So every day I learn something new. Every day I see something that makes me want to do something differently and do something much better than I previously did. I change my mind about things all the time. I've seen things, I've experienced things, I've seen other people's experiences. And so really every day life teaches me something. Every day it makes me want to be better, do better, inspire, especially young people. So I started a campaign and which was really going well, but I had to put that on hold for other purposes. It's definitely something that will come back. It was called Reckless. And I'm sure when you hear Reckless, you're probably thinking, okay, but the spelling was reckless, like less wreckage. Okay. So yes, I started that campaign. I go with other young people like myself, who have experiences to share, to let these young people know and understand that, of course, it's normal that you go through these things. It's how you handle it that makes all the difference.
I see. Where do you see yourself and your children in the next 10 years? I'm sure they'll be all grown up by then.
Oh, yes. I actually do the math all the time. I always say to myself, okay, so by the time I'm this age, this one will be this, and that one will be that, and that one will be that. I do the math all the time. So in the next 10 years, I see myself and my agency well established. I see myself running a very big non-profit for teenagers. But one thing that I also am very passionate about is mental health. Especially in our parts of the world, we don't pay a lot of attention to And people go through so many things and sometimes end up in places that they shouldn't because they do not have the help they need. And half the time they don't even know they need that help. I'm really looking to get into that area and try to help as many people as I can as well. And with my children, I just cannot wait to see how, they grow into themselves. And I try to let them be confident and be themselves and not under any circumstance allow society or anybody to dictate who and how they want to live or be, and be themselves. And so help us God. We have life all the way till then. I'm sure I would just enjoy looking at them and the growth they're going to have, because I'll be there to hold their hands every step of the way.
What would you say are your greatest challenges as a single mother?
I would say definitely finances. When you're a single mother, you're trying to hold all the different sides of the triangle together all by yourself. So it makes it quite difficult. Also, it's tough making decisions, Sometimes, of course, depending on the kind of relationship you have with whoever you've had this child or these children with, especially if we have moved on, this person has a spouse, this other person has a spouse. And so now it's not just you two single individuals making decisions, but you have your spouses weighing in as well. Having to do that or be in that position is difficult. Also, you don't get to raise your child by yourself the way you want, It means that I have no control when my daughter goes to the other side, So you're raising a child who is not just being raised by you, but is being raised by you and somebody else. Not much you can do about it. There are so many things that come up that you really can't do much about. You just have to adjust. But in all of this, one thing I've learned is to be, not just open-minded. It's to know how to communicate. Is to understand the situation you're in and accept it and know how to deal with everybody who is a part of, the life of your child. It's a big family. It's unfortunate, but if this is where we find ourselves, then we need to make it work for us.
I could tell that you're a very hands-on mother. How are you able to balance everything?
Well, part of the reason why I had to leave radio when I did was just so I could, spend more time with the children. And also because I started the agency, I needed a lot more time to focus on that. My office is very close to my home, so it makes it very easy for me. In the mornings, I drop the kids off, and I don't have help, so that makes it even worse.
Wow.
Yes, I don't have help. So in the mornings, I get the kids ready. I drop them off at school. Then I go to the office, check out what has to be done. Sometimes people come to the office for meetings. Sometimes I have to go out and meet people, to plan whatever. And I do that. And I have to make sure that I'm back to get the kids from school by 3, sometimes 4. But because I've made arrangements with the school so they can keep them for me till I get to the school, and then we come home, do homework, watch. We always have something we're watching, and then we go to bed, or they go to bed. I pretend to go to bed with them. When they sleep, I get up to do what I have to do, because you have to make their lunch boxes for tomorrow. If you're giving them fruits, you have to slice everything up, put in the fridge before morning, tidy up, do all of that. And then I get to sleep. But I've gotten so used to it, and I actually love it. When they're on holidays and they probably, will go to my mom's to spend time, and I have all the time to myself, I'm not okay, because I'm like, I don't have anything to do. Absolutely enjoy my children. So, yeah.
What advice would you give to a new mother who's just had a baby and knows that she's going to be a single mother? What would you tell her? I'm
always advising that do the best you can, okay? If it's something that's beyond you, if it's something that you cannot do, don't Don't get into that space and hurt yourself and the child. Ask for help. Find other options, other alternatives. There's so many alternatives. There's so many options. You just have to, be willing to ask. Ask for help if you need it. Because not everybody's like me. Not everybody will love kids or would want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, you really don't have to. Sometimes you get so overwhelmed. Everything we do, over 90% of what we do, how we behave, all of that is psychological. So as much as I want people to be confident and go all the way and do it, I also say that do the best you can. If it's not something you can do, if it's beyond what you can give or do, don't push yourself to it and be miserable and make your child miserable. Ask for help. There are always options, always.
And that's how we end today's program and the program for the month of October. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to all our guests, the most recent being Natalia Anadoh. I'm your host, Atiewin Imbila Lawson. I'll catch you next time. Do stay safe.